Hi James, welcome to The Healer's Way.
Thank you.
Now, you have won prestigious humanitarian awards, you're very socially and environmentally aware and active, and of course you're the author of the absolutely successful The Celestine Prophecy. Why do you think that it is as popular and as applicable today as when it was first published 15 years ago?
Well, I think that it's a book that describes a deeper spiritual experience, and it not just mentally, but the emotions of the deeper spiritual experience, the actual experiences that one discovers on a spiritual path. So I think that when the book first came out, it crystallized and spoke to what people were already perceiving in their own lives. So that created a pass-along effect. Hey, let's read this. Let's talk about it. And it continues to do that. People sort of open up new generations to the fact that there is more. We all sense there's more than the material life. There's a spiritual dimension. We can discover that for ourselves, and the book talks about how to do that.
Do you think that the spiritual movement it's growing even bigger at the moment?
Yes, very quietly and at the grassroots level, and that's that's been going on for 20 years. I think that what's occurring now, though, is dramatic. Very quietly at first here, we start to see a real integration. People are talking about, how do I go out my door every day living this deeper spirituality? How do I intend to have more mysterious synchronicities, mysterious coincidences that open doors for me? How do I feel that I'm on a mission, that I'm doing something that I feel like I'm supposed to do every day? So that's going to be, it's a very interesting time, because I think now we're ready to move into the institutions of the world, to government, to healthcare, to education, and start to practice and talk about and transform these institutions out there in the world, and that's very important.
Absolutely. Now, parent-child relationships are quite clearly highlighted in the book of the Celestine Prophecy, where you talk about control dramas or behavioural responses that can result from childhood. This is only really implied in the movie, I realised, when Julia makes that connection with the young Peruvian girl, who we assume that she'll later adopt. Why was the focus taken away from such a critical point?
A lot of things, unfortunately, when you do a movie, can't be included, when it's a book of this breadth. But, I think that, what we wanted to do with the movie is create a kind of example and model of how to seek the awareness. And out of the awareness comes all the details of how to relate to individuals of all kinds, but especially children. It's a very important thing, and it's covered through all the books.
Yeah, definitely. Now, still talking about children, now the Celestine Prophecy advises to only have as many children as we can devote one-on-one attention and energy towards. Yes. And later on in the 9th insight, yes, you mentioned that the world's population will voluntarily come to a decrease to a point that's sustainable by the planet, and I think that's very ideal.
This is an overall insight that comes to all of us. It's not James Redfield's recommendations. I'm thinking that I think it's a natural aha that you get once you see what the world can sustain. Is that you want to be very careful with children, because the whole child rearing process is not. It's not a kind of ordinary, commonplace process. Bringing a child into this world should be one of the most important focuses that human culture should make, because the dynamics of helping that child not just get educated to what's going on when they arrive, but to stay connected with the sense that every child has of the wonder of the world, but also of why they came, and be able to immediately talk about the things that interest them, to facilitate that in education. Mm-hmm. So, I think that that's an aha that is contagious, and the more of us that have that aha, that revelation, the quicker it will spread. It'll spread to all peoples.
Did you want to talk about how you got led to where you are today?
Well, it was a long process. I grew up in a rural community, very loving community, that in the southern part of the United States. And they were very spiritual, in a quiet way, unstated. But I wanted answers. I wanted, well, what does this mean? What is this redemption process? Within Christianity. What is this nirvana from the East? How does that relate? How do the two relate? I wanted answers for that, and they just sort of, go to college, and I just started a real investigation of comparative religions, and from the spiritual experience point of view, not from the doctrine, but from what do these people feel? What are the experiences that cut across all mystical teaching on the planet? So, what that got me was a sense of just an eye for spiritual experience in general, the more authentic that crosses all religious traditions. And I was in a psychology program, so I really began to look at culture and at polls and just to look at how was society across nations, how are they changing? It became very clear to me that there was a spiritual awakening going on, just by what people were reporting they wanted and what they were finding in polls. So that was the basis of the Celestine prophecy. The argument that we're taking steps across the world into a higher spiritual consciousness. So the insights, of course, are my way of describing what these steps are. They're really archetypal. We're already hardwired for them. We're just
they are very easy to follow.
We're trying to activate those parts of our brains as we live a little differently. I began to describe this as best I could in stories because I think it had to be a parable because, the reading journey has a kind of an effect that transcends, just mental learning, because you're suddenly in the action of it and you're in the emotions of it, and suddenly you can grasp what the insight is by seeing other people feel it and how they behave afterwards. And so, that's what I discovered was why I'm here. What my mission is to try to chronicle this awakening that's happening around the planet. There's in my view, a new step that we're taking now. I'm calling it the 12th insight. It's the step of integration. And what that means is really doing it, not just thinking about it in quiet time, but go out the door with this consciousness and have it be sustained. So you don't just have one or two coincidences and you feel like you're on a path and it all stops and you wonder why. There are ways that we're learning. People are learning out there, and I'm just trying to describe what people are already discovering. Ways to keep this going in life and to amplify the number of intuitions we have, the number of synchronicities that lead us forward.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today, James. Such an honour to have you on The Healer's Way.
Thank you.